eBay. G'day guys, you're back with Miracle Max. Today in the workshop we have a Hyundai iLoad, also known as a H1, 2009 model with a 2.4 litre engine in it. The customer has complained about a lack of power. He has had other work done at other places and now he's brought it into me because it hasn't really improved the situation. So let's check it out together. As usual, to help me out, I've had the customer fill in one of these, a diagnostic checklist, and that has given me some information that perhaps I mightn't have been able to question them about it during the interview process. Now this vehicle is petrol and it's done over 260,000 kilometres. That's a lot of kilometres for a little petrol engine. Now these weren't really known for being, let's say, powerful. It's non-turbo of course. He hasn't had it all that long, but he has had other issues with it as well. At the time, I did quickly hook up the scan tool for him just to have a look at codes. One code that stood out was a P0420, which is Catalyst System Efficiency Below Threshold. And that's when he had the front section of the exhaust replaced, which contained the catalytic converter. That's this beast here, and you can probably hear that the catalyst material is actually loose in the actual exhaust housing or the manifold itself. So he had that replaced at another workshop. Then two oxygen sensors were replaced, the pre and post, because they were no doubt originals and were suffering from all sorts of issues. He has complained that it's had a real lack of power, particularly when it's cold, and sometimes it hesitates under acceleration. Since the engine's cold and in the workshop, I'm going to do a smoke test before I do anything else, just to rule out any vacuum leaks. So as I said, my starting point will be a smoke test just while it's cold, because metal tends to contract when it's cold and expand when it's hot and closes up air gaps. So I want to check it while it's nice and cold, just in case there are some vacuum leaks. So to do my smoke test, I'm going to use my homemade smoke machine made out of a paint tin. Now you may have seen me use this before. I should actually put up a video on how I made it. Works really efficiently for the 15 bucks that it cost me. But I'll now put that into my intake system and pressurize the system and see if there's any leaks. Don't know about you guys, but I can't see any smoke coming out apart from out here of course. I've had a pretty thorough look and can't find any smoke coming out anywhere whatsoever. Hang on. Oh, yes I have. Yes, I have. Just a little tiny one there, but it's starting to leach out more and more. Let me focus. I was wondering if it was map sensor related. Can you guys see that through the camera? Yes, nice. Very nice. Okay, so it's definitely an O-ring leak on the map sensor, which, just keep in mind, this doesn't have a MAF sensor, which is a mass airflow. This has a MAP sensor, which is a manifold absolute pressure, and is located in the intake system. Not in the airflow, but the intake system. I'll pull that off and have a look at the O-ring and see the condition of that and see if I can just replace the O-ring. The customer has stated that he's done some maintenance himself, for instance the air filter, the fuel filter and the spark plugs. But he said the main problem started after the exhaust manifold with the catalytic converter inside, the new one, was replaced. And he said now it seems to lack power. Now that I've checked for a vacuum leak in the intake system, I'm going to look at live data during a road test and see what I can see. And then perhaps check out the rest of the exhaust system. I assume it's original and no doubt is a little bit tired as well. I've gone ahead and done a quick scan on it, and as you can see it's got a P0068, which is a map sensor throttle position correlation, which is interesting. Don't know too much about that one. He was complaining about a high idle, particularly after he cleaned the throttle body because it was so dirty. So we've got a P0507 idle air control system, RPM higher than expected. He did say that it takes a long time for the RPM to come down. And we've got a P0130 O2 sensor circuit, bank 1 sensor 1. So these aren't a surprise to me. I'd like to do some more research before I make any comments on them. The O2 sensor, he has replaced both of them. So it'd be interesting to see if it comes up with another fault code. I'll do some more research on these before I erase them, and then we'll go on a road test and see what we find. So the first code that came up, as you can see, is a P0068. Now this refers to the intake sensors not being correlated with one another. So that includes our throttle position sensor together with our map sensor. In this particular case it could be a MAF, but this case has a map. What I'm going to do is pull out my brand new picoscope. What is it, 4425A plus. We're very excited. Well, guess what, Mr. Hyundai, you're the first person that gets to use my new picoscope. So we'll hook it up and just do some testing at both the throttle position sensor as well as the map sensor and see what sort of readings we get. I've also gone ahead and done some terminal retention checking, which basically you get a pin or one of the old wiring looms, something along those lines of the same configuration, and we just pop him in there to make sure that it's nice and tight like a tiger, which they are. No problemos there. And of course we'll check this fella over here and maybe my map sensor as well, since we're here, and I'm all happy with those. Yep, they're nice. This bloke over here, just got to make sure that they're tight, so they have good contact when they are like connected as such. So yes, I'm happy with those, they're all good. So terminal retention check done, all done. We're going to back probe this connector with the Pico oscilloscope, but it's got this little like hidey looking thing on top, so we need to get rid of that, and that's basically just a cover. So you need to flip those little clips up and hopefully, and I don't drop it of course, oh, it's actually got a little hold down thingy, so it's all good. And now we can back probe it with the acupuncture pins, making sure that we don't damage the weather seals, but this little clip thing just clips out the road, no problemo. So as you can see, I've got my connectors hooked up to my TPS. I have, let's see, I have my blue channel in my pink wire, and that is my 5-volt reference. I have my green wire, or my green connector into the center pin, which is sort of like a grey looking thing. And that's my earth, and my control wire is, or my signal wire, sorry, is, oh, I can't see, is that a brown wire looking thing? I guess it is. That's my red channel there. So let's have a look at the scope and see what it says. Alright, so across on our scope, I'm happy with my earth. It is right at 0. We've got a lot of noise. I haven't been, look, this is the new Pico scope to me, so I'm not overly smart and having a little bit of trouble trying to filter it properly. But I'm happy that our earth is at 0. There's no noise on there, or there's no real fluctuation. 100 millivolts either way, that's okay. And of course over on our blue channel over here, you can see that we have a good clean 5 volts there. Let's turn on channel B. Let's just turn that on, and that should be up to 10 volts. I might just get rid of that earth, so that, or the ground circuit there. And let's turn him off, and that way it's a little bit clearer for us. This should have a linear motion going up to about 5-ish volts, 4.7, 4.9, something like that, down to about 0.5, something along those lines. Might even slow my time base down, or just change my time base a little bit so that we can see it a little clearer. Alright, so what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to pull the throttle onto full, go from 0 up to 5 volts, nice and smoothly, and that should give us a clean action there. There shouldn't be any cutouts. I did stop there a little bit. It's a bit hard to... Actually, what I will do is just use the accelerator, you idiot. I'll now do it nice and smooth this time, hopefully. Do it several times. And you can see there's no glitches. There's no cutout there at all. It's nice and smooth. It's going up and down just the way it should, off and on. It is a little bit low in comparison to where I figure it should be. It does have a mat under the accelerator. I'll just pull that back for now, see if we can get a higher reading. And I believe we are getting a higher reading now. Look at that. Just a fraction, but it is a higher reading than it was before. Yeah, it's strange that it's got this flat spot on the top. Wouldn't expect it to have a flat spot. It should peak out and come down nice, I would imagine. This here should be coming up to about 4.8, something along those lines. What we might do now is see if this TPS is in fact adjustable and we can get some more out of it. I've done it before, that worked, but we'll see what happens now. Now that I've done my TPS, I've adjusted my TPS, and it certainly seems to be idling a little bit better. But these do in fact have an idle screw that you might be interested in noting. Just down on the bottom there, I'll try and point it out to you in a while, that may need adjustment as well. Keep in mind that he has done a throttle clean, and the base idle should be set after that. So let's just have a look at what the RPM is like. So he was complaining that it was holding for a long time. No, that seems to be dropping back okay. Cool. All right, let's move on to that map sensor next. I've just done some extra research on the Pico site, and it notes here that it goes up to about 3.7 and down to about 0.7. Look, I've seen them go up as high as about 4.8, but they're saying about 3.7, so perhaps my reading of what was it, 4.3 or something is not too bad. So we'll leave that one alone. I didn't see any hiccups in it, so that was all good. There was no problems with the actual waveform itself. I was just concerned about the actual peak out of it, or where it stopped at the high range, but that looks okay to me. So we'll move on. As you can see, I'm now on my map sensor. I did put that back in with just a smear of oil on it to try and stop the smoke leak that was there before. That did stop it, but I will suggest to the customer that that O-ring gets replaced if at all possible. Now, so I'm on my map sensor. I have checked my 5-volt reference. I've checked my ground and found them to be in good condition. I'm now back probing the output wire, or the signal wire, and we'll see what we get when we floor it. We should get a high rise signal, and then it should dip down into a vacuum and then come back up again. So let's see what we get. Okay, let's just pause that and have a look at the signal. So you can see that we're getting up to about 3.7 volts there, and also we're dipping down the bottom here into a vacuum area before it kicks back up to go to just below the 1 volt there. So that appears to be working correctly from what I've seen on other waveforms. So there's an example of what the waveform should look like, and that's very similar to ours. We get up to a peak, although it is going a little bit higher up here, about 4.8. Ours was quite low in comparison, but there is that pocket of vacuum as well. The 5-volt reference was okay. Whether the map is just a little bit tired or not, I don't know. But according to the scan tool, when I floor it, I'm getting 100% load come through, so that appears to be reading correctly as well. So those two fellas are ruled out, I believe. Next one on the line was the oxygen sensor. Let's have a look at that. In the meantime, although I didn't film it, I did drop part of the exhaust down just to have a quick peek inside to make sure there wasn't any blockages, and I'm happy that there was. I used an inspection camera, sort of like a boroscope type thing from Audi, and I was happy that there wasn't any blockages, so I can rule that out as being a problem. There's no restriction in the exhaust. One thing that I have done though is gone into the scan tool once again, going under SW management. Wouldn't have a clue what that stands for, but if we go here, and we're still under Hyundai iLoad, the engine side of things, and it comes up with resetting adaptive values. Now I've gone ahead and done that, and what it says over here, the information is actually quite useful. It says to reset adaptive values on the PCM when a component is replaced, and that includes things like O2 sensors. Now remember, I said that the customer has gone ahead and replaced both the pre and the post O2 sensors, so I've now reset these values, and hopefully that should make a little bit of a difference. So I'm just going to let the customer use it for a week or so, and then he can check and see what it's like. These apparently did have trouble with turboed models, the petrol ones, earlier on. This one is a non-turbo model, so put it this way, I'm never going to approach you if I've got some skin to pull off a rice pudding, that's for sure, because it isn't powerful by any means, but it's operating as it should, I believe. So I'll hand it back to the customer and get them to check it out and see if they're happy with it or not. Although there doesn't seem to be anything definitively wrong with this particular vehicle, the customer wanted it checked out. Now I did find a few little things, including a vacuum leak at the map sensor and the TPS not being adjusted correctly. I've checked his exhaust and of course the oxygen sensors that have been replaced. Everything appears to be working okay. I'd just say the thing is gutless. I'll leave it up to the customer to decide if he agrees with that statement or not. I'll give him a couple of weeks and see how he goes with it. He's usually in contact with me, so he'll get back to me and let me know if it's sorted or if he's happy with the results or not. There may be a part 2, who knows. Look, it's been 6 months since this vehicle was here last, so I'm just trying to update you on the results of that diagnosis. There for a while it went really well, and then it just went downhill for some reason. The check engine light came on, lacked power. Remember that the customer said that they did some work themselves, and that seemed to coincide with the replacement of the catalytic converter. But at that particular time, he himself replaced a couple of oxygen sensors. Where were they from? eBay. He said he had no trouble with it stalling or cutting out as it did before, but it still lacked power, and this check engine light seemed to come on at will. He came back in, I hooked up the scan tool, looked at live data, and I was not happy with the O2 readings, both the pre and the post O2 sensors. It's been recorded, so I'm just going back through some data here, and the only thing that I have noticed is that the long term is sitting at absolute zero constantly. There's no variation in there whatsoever. Short term is doing some adjustments, sure, but the long term should make some sort of adjustment at some point. I haven't never seen them sit at absolute zero. I'm in OBD2 now. This one here doesn't look quite right to me. Nah, that's not right at all. That sensor 2 is not working properly. Short term's like going to -20, long term's not changing whatsoever. Now that's a bit of a concern. And this, look, back oxygen sensor is not working properly at all. Look at that. That's all over the shop. Have a look at the signal there. It's kind of weird, isn't it? I'm not really whoops, there we go. Listen to that. Short term's gone to 0. It's not changing whatsoever, but that could be as a result of these oxygen sensors not working properly. But yeah, that's just weird. It's not healthy at all, is it? I said to him, sometimes eBay is not the answer. So he decided to go genuine. $1,200 for 2 of them? Anyway, the very next day after fitting them, he raced back to my little workshop, knocked on the door and said, "Hey, have a look at these, see what I found." He said that the van is absolutely magic, it's going perfect. He had considered selling it, but now he wanted to keep it, and he was so happy with the results. What did he find? Here's the O2s that he pulled off, but particularly note this pre one, or the front one. Have a look at it, it's insane. All the plastic has broken. There's nothing wrong with the wiring or anything. This would have created heaps of electromagnetic interference, EMF. And to be quite honest, sometimes, I don't know if I can right now, but I was able to just cut it with my fingernail. The insulation is so pathetic. Let's give it a try there. No, it's going to make a liar of me, but I did it before. Actually, have a look. I did do it with my nail. Look at that. So that it's bare, just with my nail. That's just insane. So further up, there's more cracks, you know, here, there and everywhere. So this would have been giving all sorts of weird readings. Cheap rubbish from eBay. He thought he was doing the right thing. He paid $100 for 2 of them. But unfortunately, it's probably not the sensor itself that failed, but the insulation that they used on the wiring. The back one, however, is not quite as bad, but up here it's just peeled off, of course. But further up, there's only, look at that. That was done with my nail too. There's a few little cracks. If you just bend it backwards and forwards, the insulation just simply cracks off. eBay rubbish. You've got to pay for quality, particularly with regard to Subaru, Hyundai and other vehicles. Sometimes genuine is the only answer. He was so excited that as soon as he replaced those O2 sensors, he raced down here and showed me, because he was so happy that the new ones got rid of that check engine light and it was running absolutely perfectly. Look, you've got to pay for quality parts, guys. When he asked me about my opinion of purchasing these ones off of eBay, I told him exactly that. You get what you pay for. Classic example here. Look, guys, this has been an interesting diagnosis as well as an interesting outcome. I hope you got something from this video today, and if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. Give it a like. Feel free to comment down below. Of course, don't forget about that notification bell. You don't want to miss any future videos. Hey look, I've got other work to go on with, so I'll leave it with you for now, guys. This is Miracle Max signing off. I will catch you later.